The silence around the blue planet was heavy, but not empty. It was the silence of a hunter waiting for the right moment to strike. Above Earth, a massive shadow blocked the light of the stars. It was the fleet of the Galactic Coalition. They had come from the far reaches of space to stop the humans before they became too dangerous. The aliens called Earth a danger zone, but they were really just afraid. They had seen how fast humans were advancing, and they did not like it. On the bridge of the largest alien ship, Admiral Tom stood looking out the huge window. He was not an alien. He was a human, but he worked for the Coalition. He had left Earth years ago because he thought humans were too violent. Now, he was the leader of the fleet sent to control them. Beside him stood his second in command, a tall woman named Lisa. She looked at the screens that showed the position of the thousands of ships under their command. "The fleet is in position, Admiral," Lisa said. Her voice was cold. "We have the planet surrounded. If they try to launch anything, we will destroy it." Tom nodded slowly. He did not feel happy about this. He remembered his home, but he believed he was doing the right thing. The Coalition had laws. Species that invented faster than light travel had to join the Coalition and follow their rules. Humanity had refused. They wanted to be free. Tom thought they were stubborn and foolish. "Open a channel to Earth," Tom ordered. "Let's see if they are ready to talk sense yet." A communication officer worked at his console. "Channel open, sir." Tom stepped forward. He spoke loudly, knowing his voice would be heard on every radio and speaker on the planet below. "People of Earth, this is Admiral Tom of the Galactic Coalition. You are surrounded. Your space stations are targets. You have 1 hour to send your leaders to our ship to sign the surrender treaty. If you refuse, we will begin bombing your major cities. Do not test our patience." There was a long pause. Tom waited for a reply. He expected fear. He expected begging. Instead, the radio waves stayed silent. The only sound on the bridge was the low hum of the engines. "Admiral," Lisa said, looking at her screen. "They are not responding. It is like they are ignoring us." "They cannot ignore us," Tom said, frowning. "Scan the planet. Find their military bases. Find their ships." "Scanning," the officer said. "Wait. I am reading something strange near the moon. There is a gravitational distortion. Something is coming out of warp speed." Tom looked at the main screen. A tear opened in the fabric of space near the gray moon. At first, it was just a point of light. Then, it grew larger. A massive shape began to emerge from the tear. It was bigger than any ship Tom had ever seen. It was not the sleek silver ships of the Coalition. This ship was black. It looked like a sharp knife made of the darkest night. It was jagged and angular, with huge gun barrels pointing in every direction. "What is that?" Lisa whispered. She sounded scared for the first time. The ship fully entered normal space. It was gigantic. It was as big as a city. It sat there between the moon and the Earth, unmoving. On the side of the ship, in bright, bold letters, were the words, U.S. Ares. Use. Tom read the letters. United Earthship. "Admiral," the sensor officer shouted. "That ship? It is radiating immense energy. My sensors cannot penetrate its hull. It is like a black hole absorbing my scans." Tom stared at the black monster. He had never heard of Earth building a ship like that. It was a lie. It was a trick. "It is a decoy," Tom said loudly, trying to convince himself and his crew. "Humans are primitive. They do not have the technology for a dreadnought. Send a squadron to destroy it." "Sir, should we not scan it first?" Lisa asked. "No." Tom yelled. "We are the Coalition. We have 10,000 ships here. They have one. Kill it now. 50 alien fighters broke formation and flew toward the black ship. They moved fast, firing their small green laser guns. The lasers hit the black hull of the Ares. They exploded into sparks of light, but when the smoke cleared, the black metal was not scratched. There was not even a mark. On Earth, in a secret bunker deep under the ground, Commander Mike watched the battle on a wall of screens. He was an older man with gray hair and a tired face. He had worked for 10 years to make the Ares a reality. He was the head of the United Earth Space Command. "They are testing us," Mike said to his team. "Good. Let them waste their ammo. Captain David is waiting for your order," a young woman named Amy said from her computer terminal. She was the communications link to the Ares. Mike took a deep breath. The world was watching. The galaxy was watching. For centuries, humans had been the weak ones, the ones getting bullied. Today, that changed. "Tell Captain David," Mike said, his voice steady, "to show them what we can do." Up on the bridge of the UES Ares, Captain David sat in his command chair. He was a calm man. He did not panic easily. He saw the tiny alien fighters buzzing around his ship like angry flies. He saw the giant fleet beyond them, ready to attack. "Did you hear that, Lieutenant?" David asked his weapons officer. "Yes, sir," the lieutenant replied. "Command is clear. We are free to engage." David stood up. He straightened his uniform. "Target the flagship." The one giving the orders. "Aye, Captain." "Targeting the Vengeance," the lieutenant said. The Ares began to move. It was so big that it should have moved slowly. But it didn't. It jerked forward with speed that defied the laws of physics. It turned its massive nose toward the alien fleet. The main cannon, a long barrel that ran the length of the ship, began to glow. Blue light gathered at the tip of the barrel. It grew brighter and brighter until it was difficult to look at. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Tom watched the blue light with wide eyes. The sensors were screaming. "Shields up." Tom screamed. "All power to forward shields. Shoot that main gun." But it was too late. The Ares fired. There was no sound in space, but the flash of light was blinding. A beam of pure energy shot out from the human ship. It was not a laser. It was a stream of magnetized plasma moving faster than sound. It crossed the distance between the fleets in a heartbeat. The beam hit the front shields of the alien flagship. The shields, which could withstand nuclear bombs, shattered like glass. The beam kept going. It punched through the thick metal armor of the ship. It went through the bridge, the engine room, and out the back. Behind the flagship, 3 other cruisers were following too closely. The beam passed through them as well. In a split second, 4 huge alien ships were turned into drifting junk. Fire erupted from their hulls, and they began to spin out of control. On the bridge of the Ares, the light from the explosion reflected in Captain David's eyes. "Target destroyed," the weapons officer said simply. Admiral Tom was thrown to the floor as his ship shook violently. Alarms blared everywhere. Smoke filled the room. He crawled to the window. He saw his beautiful flagship, the pride of the coalition, burning. He saw the other ships breaking apart. He looked up at the black dreadnought. It was still there, unharmed. It was reloading. "They killed them," Tom whispered. "They killed us all in one shot." Lisa pulled him up from the floor. Her face was pale. "Admiral, we have to retreat. That ship is a monster. We cannot stop it." Tom looked at the screens showing the Ares. He realized his mistake. He thought he was hunting a mouse, but he had just woken up a dragon. "No," Tom said, gripping the railing of his broken ship. "Send a signal. Send the whole fleet. All of them. We have to destroy it now, or we are doomed." In the cold vacuum of space, the Ares turned slowly. Its thousands of smaller guns aimed at the swarm of alien ships coming toward it. Humanity had arrived, and they were not here to talk. The silence was over. The war had begun. The explosion of the flagship sent a shockwave through the entire fleet. It was not a physical wave, because space is a vacuum, but it was a wave of fear. Thousands of alien commanders watched their screens in horror as the Vengeance and the 3 cruisers behind it turned into burning debris. For years, the Galactic Coalition had been the strongest power in the stars. They had bullied smaller civilizations and taken their resources. They thought Earth would be just another easy target. They were wrong. The humans had been hiding their true strength. The giant black ship, the U.S. Ares, floated in the dark space like a silent tombstone. It did not look damaged at all. The single shot it had fired was more powerful than anything the Coalition had ever seen. On the bridge of the Ares, Captain David sat back down in his chair. The lighting was dim, and the crew moved with calm precision. They were not shouting or running around. They had trained for this moment for years. "Report," David said quietly. "The first target group is eliminated," the weapons officer said. "Their shields were ineffective against our railgun shot. The kinetic energy bypassed their defense grids completely." David nodded. "They will panic now. Panic makes them stupid, but it also makes them dangerous." Admiral Tom, on a nearby heavy cruiser that had survived the first shot, was indeed panicking. His face was covered in sweat, and his hands were shaking as he gripped the armrests of his chair. The bridge of his new ship was chaotic. Officers were shouting over the alarms. "Admiral!" a tactical officer screamed. "The energy readings from that human ship are rising again. They are charging another shot." Tom knew he could not let that happen. If the Ares fired again, it could destroy his entire fleet one by one. He had to overwhelm the enemy with numbers. It was the only way. "All ships," Tom yelled. "D into the command channel. Listen to me. Do not wait for orders. Fire at will. Pour everything we have onto that black ship. Destroy their main cannon. Focus all fire on the front." The orders spread instantly across the Coalition Armada. Hundreds of captains pressed their firing buttons. From thousands of ships, a storm of fire erupted. Green plasma beams, red laser pulses, and heavy solid projectiles filled the space between the moon and the Earth. It looked like a bright river of death flowing toward the lone human ship down on Earth. In the command center, Commander Mike watched the wall of screens. The lights in the room flickered from the sheer amount of data coming in. "They are throwing everything at us," Amy said, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "Mike, the energy density of that barrage is enough to melt a planet's surface." Mike did not look away from the screen. "They don't understand our technology, Amy. They are hitting a brick wall with a feather. Keep monitoring the Ares." In space, the barrage slammed into the U.S. Ares. The noise on the alien bridges was deafening as they cheered, thinking they had hit the mark. But the cheers quickly died down. The view screens showed the truth. The Ares did not explode. It did not even crack. As the plasma and lasers hit the black hull, the metal glowed a soft red for a moment. Then, strange symbols on the ship's armor lit up. The black armor was absorbing the energy. The heat from the alien weapons was not damaging the ship. It was feeding it inside the Ares. The lights suddenly grew brighter. "Captain," the engineer called out from the back of the bridge. "The heat sinks are at 90%. The external hull is converting their fire into usable energy. We are fully charged." Captain David smiled. It was a cold smile. "Thank you for the recharge," he whispered. "Lieutenant, target their formation. They are clustered together to maximize their fire." "That is a mistake. Fire the dispersal shells." "Aye, sir," the weapons officer replied. The Ares shifted its aim slightly. The ship was so agile that it seemed to dance in the vacuum. It fired its main cannon again, but this time was different. Instead of one giant beam, the cannon released a massive cloud of smaller projectiles. These were smart rounds. Once they left the barrel, they separated into thousands of tiny metal shards. Each shard had a small computer brain inside. They spread out like a swarm of angry bees. The alien fleet watched the cloud approach. They thought it was debris. "It's just scrap metal." A tactical officer on an alien destroyer laughed. Their gum broke. But the laughter stopped when the swarm arrived. The tiny shards locked onto the engines and power cores of the alien ships. They accelerated to incredible speeds. They hit the alien ships like a rain of bullets in seconds. The front line of the coalition fleet fell apart. Engines exploded. Reactors went critical. The bright green and blue lights of the alien ships turned into orange balls of fire. The Ares was not just shooting them. It was dismantling them. Admiral Tom watched in disbelief. 50 ships had been destroyed in the first wave. Another 100 were heavily damaged. Why won't they die? Tom shouted. "Shoot the swarm. Use point defense." "It is too fast, Admiral. Our systems cannot track that many small targets." Lisa, Tom's second-in-command, walked over to him. She looked pale, but she was calm. "Admiral," she said softly, "we have lost the element of surprise, and we are losing the firepower battle. Their armor absorbs our energy, and their weapons are too fast. We need to change tactics." Tom looked at her. "What can we do?" "We cannot run. They will just chase us down. We have to get closer," Lisa said. "We have to use our speed. If we swarm them physically, maybe we can board them. We have thousands of soldiers." Tom thought about it. It was a desperate plan. He nodded. "Order the fleet. Break formation. Scatter and swarm. Get us inside their firing range. Use the boarding pods." The alien ships began to move. They stopped flying in a neat formation. They spread out in all directions, trying to confuse the human ship. They flew toward the Ares from every angle. It looked like a cloud of angry hornets attacking a bear. On the Ares, Captain David saw the movement. "They are trying to rush us," David said. "They think we are a siege weapon that cannot handle close combat." "Lieutenant Amy, are the drones ready?" The communication officer on the bridge spoke up. "Yes, Captain. The drone bays are open. We have 2,000 attack drones ready for launch." "Release them," David ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you get too close to the bear." Hatches along the sides of the Ares slid open. From these dark holes, small, sleek human ships flew out. They were not manned by pilots. They were controlled by the AI on the Ares. They were fast and deadly. They met the charging alien ships halfway. The space around the Ares turned into a dogfight. The human drones moved like lightning. They dodged the slow alien fire and fired precise pulses of energy that cut through the enemy hulls. The alien ships were big and clumsy. They could not hit the small drones. One by one, the alien ships that tried to get close were destroyed. Captain David watched the tactical map. The red dots representing the enemy were shrinking, but there were still many of them. "They are stubborn," David said. "Admiral Tom must really hate us." "He is afraid," the first officer said. "Fear makes people do crazy things." "Then let us give him something to be truly afraid of," David said. "Prepare the gravity drive. It is time to show them the real power of the Ares." The crew began to work on a new set of controls. The Ares had a secret weapon that no one in the galaxy had ever seen. It was a gravity drive. It could create a black hole for a few seconds. It was the ultimate trap. David stood up. He wanted to see this with his own eyes. The battle was only 1 minute old, but the coalition had already lost hundreds of ships. The humans were just getting started. The silence of space was replaced by the sound of destruction. It was a strange silence, because sound cannot travel in a vacuum. But on the bridges of the alien ships, the screams of dying crews and the blaring of alarms were deafening. The coalition fleet was in chaos. What started as a proud display of power had turned into a nightmare. The alien ships were scattered like frightened fish, trying to escape the terror that was the U.S. Ares. But the human ship was not letting them go. Captain David stood on the bridge of the Ares, watching the holographic map. The red dots of the enemy ships were moving fast, but they were not running away effectively. They were terrified. "They are trying to regroup," Lieutenant Amy said from her station. She was reading the enemy signals. "Admiral Tom is ordering the remaining battleships to form a wedge. They want to punch through our defense line and escape toward the outer rim." "Let them try," David said calmly. He sipped his coffee. It was still hot. "Helm, bring us about. New heading, 300. I want to cut them off." The massive ship turned. For something the size of a city, it moved incredibly fast. The engines glowed with a blue light that pushed the ship forward without any vibration. The aliens had never seen inertia dampeners used so effectively. To them, the human ship was breaking the laws of physics. Admiral Tom was sweating heavily on the bridge of his damaged cruiser. He looked at the main screen. The Ares was coming right for them. "How is it moving that fast?" Tom yelled. "That ship is huge. It should be slow. It should be clumsy." "Sir, their drive system is unknown to us," his tactical officer replied, his voice shaking. "They are not using standard thrusters. They are manipulating gravity to move." Tom slammed his fist on the console. "Gravity? That is impossible. Only the ancients had that technology. Humans are monkeys. They are supposed to be primitive." "They are not primitives anymore, sir," Lisa said quietly. She was looking out the window at the black hull of the Ares as it grew larger in their view. "Look at the design. It is not meant for exploration. It is meant for war. They built this for one purpose: to kill us." Tom felt a chill go down his spine. He had made a terrible mistake. He underestimated the humans. He thought they would surrender as soon as they saw the size of his fleet. Instead, they had built a monster in secret. "Focus fire on the engines," Tom shouted. "Maybe we can slow them down." The remaining alien battleships turned their guns toward the Ares. They fired a combined volley. This time, they used their heavy torpedoes. These were missiles designed to crack the moons of planets. There were hundreds of them speeding toward the human ship. Inside the Ares, the sensors picked up the incoming threat. "Captain, we have multiple bogies," the weapons officer announced. "Heavy warheads. Impact in 30 seconds. David did not look worried. "Let the point defense grid handle it. And prepare the kinetic harpoons." "Aye, sir." The hull of the Ares rippled. Small turrets popped out of the smooth black metal. There were thousands of them. They used high-speed lasers to track the incoming torpedoes. As the torpedoes closed in, the turrets opened fire. Space lit up with thousands of small explosions. It looked like a fireworks display. The Ares sat calmly in the center of the explosions, untouched. Not a single torpedo got through. The debris from the destroyed torpedoes bounced harmlessly off the ship's energy shields. "Threat neutralized," the weapons officer said. "The kinetic harpoons are ready." "Fire at will," David ordered. The Ares did not use its main cannon this time. Instead, it launched long, thin metal spikes from tubes along its sides. These were the kinetic harpoons. They moved silently and were very hard to see on radar because they were made of a special dark material. They sped toward the alien formation. The harpoons hit their targets with terrifying force. They pierced the thick armor of the alien battleships and exploded inside. One harpoon hit the reactor of a large destroyer. The ship blew up from the inside, sending shrapnel flying into the ships next to it. The chain reaction destroyed 5 more ships. "We have to break formation," Tom screamed over the comms. "Scatter. Don't stay in groups." But it was too late for many of them. The Ares was hurting them. It moved like a sheepdog, chasing the sheep where it wanted them to go. It was positioning the enemy fleet for the final blow. Down on Earth, Commander Mike was watching the battle with satisfaction. The mood in the bunker was no longer tense. It was excited. People were cheering at every explosion. "They are doing well," Mike said to Amy. "Captain David is toying with them." "Yes," Amy agreed. "He is forcing them into the asteroid belt near Jupiter's orbit." "Perfect," Mike said. "That is the kill zone." Back in space, Admiral Tom finally realized where he was being pushed. He looked at the navigation map. They were moving toward a dense field of rocks and ice. "He is trapping us," Tom yelled. "He wants us to crash into the asteroids." "Turn around." "Turn the fleet around now." "It is too late, Admiral," Lisa said softly. "Look behind us." Tom looked. The Ares was not chasing them anymore. It had stopped. The black ship was sitting silently in space, blocking the path back to Earth. The human ship had effectively trapped the entire alien fleet between itself and the asteroid belt. "They have us boxed in," Tom whispered. The reality of his defeat was starting to sink in. He had 10,000 ships at the start of the battle. Now, he had less than 4,000. And they were all trapped. On the Ares, Captain David stood up. He walked to the front of the bridge and looked at the trapped enemy fleet. "Sir," the helmsman said, "the enemy is slowing down. They are confused. They don't know whether to fight or run into the asteroids." "Good," David said. "Confusion is our ally. Now, we initiate the gravity shear." The crew got busy. This was a new technology. It had never been tested in real combat. The gravity shear was a device that could create a wave of gravitational force. It was like throwing a stone into a pond. The ripples would push everything away. "Charging the drive," the engineer announced. "This will take a lot of power. We are draining the capacitors." "Take it from the life support if you have to," David said. "Just make sure it works." In the trapped fleet, the sensors started to go crazy. "Admiral, I am reading a massive gravity spike." The sensor officer screamed. "It is coming from the human ship. It is like they are creating a black hole." "Shields to maximum," Tom yelled. "Hold on to something." The Ares fired. A wave of invisible energy shot out from the ship. It moved faster than light. When it hit the asteroid belt, the rocks were crushed into dust. When it hit the alien ships, the effect was devastating. The gravity wave grabbed the ships and twisted them. Hulls groaned and metal snapped. Ships that were close to each other were smashed together. The delicate engines of the alien vessels could not handle the gravitational stress. They exploded in sequence. It was a beautiful and terrible sight to behold. Hundreds of ships vanished in a blink of an eye, turned into scrap metal by the sheer power of gravity. Tom watched in horror as his ship shook violently. Sparks flew from the ceiling. He was thrown to the floor again. When he looked up, the screen showed that half of his remaining fleet was gone. Just gone. Destroyed by a single gravity wave. "We have to surrender," Lisa said, crawling to Tom's side. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead. "We cannot fight a god." Tom looked at her, then at the screen showing the black ship. It was still there. It was still waiting. "No," Tom said, his eyes filled with hate. "I will not surrender to a human. Send the suicide drones." We will ram them. If we die, we take that ship with us. The battle was not over yet. The humans had the upper hand, but a wounded animal is the most dangerous. Tom was ready to do anything to destroy the Ares, even if it meant his own death. But Captain David was ready for him. The Ares had one more trick up its sleeve. The destruction of the asteroid belt marked the turning point of the battle. The debris floated like a fine mist in the darkness, illuminated only by the burning wreckage of the alien fleet. The silence that followed the gravity wave was heavy and terrifying. But the silence was broken by the desperate roar of Admiral Tom. "Launch the suicide drones!" Tom screamed into the communication system. His voice was hoarse and his throat burned. "I don't care about the cost. Ram that ship. Tear it apart." On the bridges of the remaining alien ships, crews looked at each other with fear. They knew it was a suicide mission, but Admiral Tom was their supreme commander. They had to obey. Hundreds of small, fast attack ships detached from the main cruisers. These were not normal ships. They were filled with high explosives. They were guided by simple AI that had one command: crash into the enemy. The wave of drones sped toward the UES Ares. They moved erratically, making them hard to hit. They were like a swarm of metallic bees coming to sting a bear. Captain David watched the swarm approach on the main screen. He did not look worried. He looked focused. "Sir," the tactical officer said, "incoming suicide drones. Their velocity is high. Impact in 20 seconds. Activate the point defense grid," David ordered, "and prepare the countermeasure." On the hull of the Ares, thousands of small turrets rotated to face the incoming threat. They fired red beams of concentrated light. The beams cut through the drones, turning them into fireballs. But there were too many of them. For every 10 drones destroyed, one got through. A drone smashed into the side of the Ares, creating a huge explosion. The ship shook slightly, but the black armor held. It was designed to take punishment. "Shields are holding at 90%, the helmsman reported. "Minor damage to outer hull plating in Sector 7. David nodded. "Let them come. They are just wasting their ammunition." But the drones kept coming. They slammed into the ship, one after another. The view from the bridge was a constant flicker of bright explosions. The aliens were hoping to overwhelm the human ship with sheer numbers. Admiral Tom watched the explosions from his bridge, a wild hope in his eyes. "Yes," he shouted. "Keep going. We are breaking their shields." "We are not, Admiral," Lisa said quietly. She was looking at her data screen. "Look at the energy readings. The Ares is not even using its main shields for the drones. It is using a localized energy field. The explosions are not getting through to the hull." Tom slammed his fist on the console. "I don't care. Keep firing." Then, the Ares fought back. It stopped firing its defensive lasers and activated a new weapon. A pulse of electromagnetic energy, or EMP, burst from the ship in a perfect sphere. It moved out silently and washed over the alien drone swarm. In an instant, the drones went dead. The computers inside them fried. The engines shut off. The swarm of deadly weapons turned into floating pieces of junk. They were no longer a threat. They just drifted past the Ares, harmless as stones. "No," Tom whispered. "They disabled them all with one button?" Captain David stood up. "Now that they have stopped shooting, it is our turn to be aggressive. Load the missile bays. I want to target their remaining battleships." "Aye, Captain." Bays loaded. Fire at will. The side of the Ares opened up like the wings of a giant beetle. Thousands of missiles launched into the void. They left trails of white smoke behind them. The missiles were smart. They locked onto the heat signatures of the alien engines. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The sky was filled with missiles. One by one, the alien ships were obliterated. A battleship here, a cruiser there. The explosions lit up the dark space like fireworks. The Ares was not just winning. It was systematically dismantling the entire coalition fleet. It was a slaughter down on Earth. Commander Mike watched the feed with a mix of sadness and pride. He had spent his life building this ship, hoping it would never have to be used. But now that it was fighting, he felt a sense of justice. The aliens had come to enslave humanity. They had underestimated the human spirit. "Tell Captain David to finish it," Mike said to Amy. "End this quickly." Amy nodded and typed the message into her console. "Message sent, sir." On the bridge of the Ares, Captain David received the message. He looked at the tactical map. There were only a few red dots left. Admiral Tom's ship was among them, heavily damaged and barely moving. "Admiral Tom is broadcasting a message," the communication officer said. "It is on an open channel. Should I put it on the speakers?" David hesitated, then nodded. "Let's hear what he has to say." The speaker crackled. Admiral Tom's voice came through, full of anger and pain. "You monsters!" Tom shouted. "You are demons. You are destroying everything. How can you be so cruel? We came to civilize you." David pressed a button to reply. "You came to enslave us, Admiral. You came to take away our freedom. We are not monsters. We are human. And when you poke a bear, you get the claws. We will never surrender." Tom screamed. "We will fight to the last ship." "So be it," David said calmly. He looked at his weapons officer. "Target Admiral Tom's ship. Use the main cannon. Let's end this." The Ares turned its massive turret toward the damaged cruiser. The barrel began to glow blue. The energy built up, humming with power. Inside the alien ship, the alarm screamed. "Incoming!" Lisa yelled. "Brace for impact." Admiral Tom sat in his chair and closed his eyes. He knew there was no escape. He had failed. The humans were not the weak species he thought they were. They were the strongest power in the galaxy. The Ares fired. The blue beam shot across the void and struck the cruiser. The ship did not explode. It simply vaporized. The beam turned the metal, the engines, and the crew into dust. In a split second, Admiral Tom and his crew were gone. The ship vanished from existence. With their leader dead, the remaining alien ships lost the will to fight. They stopped shooting. They drifted in the silence of space, their engines dead. The battle was over. The Human Dreadnought had won. The galaxy's Armadas had fallen, and it had taken less than 4 minutes. The Ares floated alone among the wreckage. A dark king of the void. Captain David looked around the bridge. The crew was silent, honoring the dead, even the enemy. "Report," David said. "All enemy ships are disabled or destroyed," the tactical officer said. "The space around Earth is secure." "Good," David said. "Signal Earth. Tell them the sky is clear." The mood on the bridge relaxed slightly. The danger had passed. They had done the impossible. They had defeated a fleet of thousands with a single ship. In the quiet of the aftermath, the Ares began to scan the area. There were escape pods launching from the wreckage. Thousands of alien survivors were floating in space. "Captain," the sensor officer said, "we have life signs in the escape pods. What should we do? Should we destroy them?" David looked at the blips on the screen. He thought about it. The aliens had come to kill them all. But humans were not murderers. They were better than that. "No," David said. "Do not fire. Collect the pods. We will take them as prisoners. Maybe now they will learn to respect us." "Aye, Captain." Launching recovery drones. The Ares dispatched small drones to gather the escape pods. The war was over, but the conversation was just beginning. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. They were no longer the children of the galaxy. They were the masters. The dust from the great battle settled slowly, drifting in the cold vacuum like snow in a graveyard. The silence that returned to the space around Earth was heavy and final. The once mighty armada of the Galactic Coalition was reduced to floating scrap metal. Huge pieces of broken cruisers and burned fighters spun silently around the U.S. Ares. The black human ship sat in the middle of the destruction, untouched and powerful. Its lights pulsed softly, a heartbeat in the dark. On the bridge of the Ares, the atmosphere was calm. The adrenaline of the fight had faded, replaced by a quiet professionalism. Captain David stood at the window, looking out at the devastation. He saw escape pods from the alien ships, tiny bubbles carrying survivors. He gave the order to collect them. It was not an act of war, but an act of mercy. It showed the galaxy that humans were not monsters, even if they had the power to destroy worlds. "Sir," the communication officer said, breaking the silence. "We are receiving a transmission from the United Earth Space Command. It is Commander Mike." "Put it on the main screen," David said. The large screen flickered and changed. The starry field of debris was replaced by the image of Commander Mike. He was sitting in the bunker deep underground. He looked tired, but his eyes were shining with relief. "Captain David," Mike said, "I have been watching the tactical feeds. You did it. You saved us." "We followed your plan, Commander," David replied respectfully. "The ship performed perfectly. The crew performed perfectly. The people on Earth are celebrating," Mike said. "The sky is lit up with lights. They know they are safe. But the galaxy is watching too. We need to send a message to the survivors. We need to tell them why this happened." "I am ready, Commander," David said. Mike nodded. "Open a channel to all frequencies. Make sure the Galactic Council hears this loud and clear." The communication officer worked at his console. A light turned green on the dashboard. "Channel open, sir. We are broadcasting to the entire sector." Captain David stepped closer to the camera. He straightened his uniform. His face was serious. He spoke clearly, his voice carried by radio waves to every listening ear within light years. "This is Captain David of the U.S. Ares," he began. "To the leaders of the Galactic Coalition, and to anyone else who thinks they can threaten Earth, listen carefully. You came to our home with threats of destruction. You thought we were weak. You thought we were primitive. You were wrong." He paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. "We did not want this war," David continued. "We wanted peace. We wanted to explore the stars as friends. But you brought your fleets to our doorstep. You forced our hand. Today, you saw what humanity can do when we are pushed. We destroyed your Armada in 4 minutes. We did it with one ship." David looked directly into the camera, his gaze intense. "Do not come back. Do not send scouts. Do not send spies. If you enter our system again, we will not be so merciful. Earth is not a territory for you to claim. Earth is a fortress. We are the guardians now. Go home and tell your councils the truth. Humanity is awake, and we are free." "And transmission," David said. The screen went back to the view of the stars. "Message sent." "Captain," the officer said, on the bridge of a small alien transport ship that was hovering at the edge of the battlefield. A group of alien commanders watched the humans' message. They were terrified. Their flagship, their admiral, and thousands of their comrades were gone. They had seen the power of the human weapon. "We have to go," one commander whispered. "If we stay, we will die. But what will we tell the council?" Another asked fearfully. "They will not believe us. They will say one ship cannot destroy a fleet." "We will tell them the truth," the first commander said. "Or we can let them come and see for themselves." If they come, they will die like us. Initiate the warp drive. Get us out of here." The alien transport turned and vanished into a blur of light, fleeing back to the deep parts of space. They were the lucky ones. They carried the warning. Back on the Ares, Captain David turned to his helmsman. "Set a new course," David ordered. "Take us to the edge of the solar system. We will patrol the border for the next few weeks. Make sure everyone else got the message." "Aye, Captain." Course set. The massive engines of the Ares glowed blue. The ship began to move, gliding past the wreckage of the enemy fleet. It was a beautiful and terrifying sight. The black hull absorbed the starlight, making the ship look like a shadow against the stars. It moved away from Earth, taking up a position as a silent sentinel. Inside the bunker on Earth, Commander Mike leaned back in his chair. He let out a long breath that he felt he had been holding for years. "It is over," Amy said softly. She was sitting next to him, wiping tears from her eyes. "We won." "Yes," Mike said. "We won. But today is just the beginning. The galaxy will change now. They will fear us. They will respect us. And maybe, just maybe, they will finally leave us alone." Amy smiled. "I don't think they will bother us again, Mike. Not after seeing the Ares." Mike stood up and walked to the elevator. He needed to go outside. He needed to see the sky. "Keep monitoring the channels," Mike told his team. "If anyone calls, tell them we are busy." Mike walked out of the bunker and took the elevator up to the surface. When the doors opened, the cool night air hit his face. He walked to a nearby hill and looked up. The night sky was clear. The moon was bright. But if you look closely, you could see a tiny black dot moving slowly across the stars. It was the Ares. It was small from here, but Mike knew its true size. He knew the power it held. It was a sword hanging over the world, protecting it from harm. People were gathering in the streets below. They were cheering and hugging. They knew that the danger had passed. They knew that their children were safe. Mike looked at the stars and whispered to the universe, "We are here to stay." The Human Dreadnought had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Armadas had fallen, and humanity stood tall. They were no longer just a small blue planet. They were a force to be reckoned with. And as the Ares disappeared into the dark, watching over the darkness, the people of Earth slept soundly for the first time in a long time. The fear was gone. In its place was pride.